All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and there's only one game left. It's the national title game. We have the Georgia Bulldogs, we have the TCU Horned Frogs, and we have my co-host, the man who will live and die on every single play, trying to make it not one, but two in a row here. My co-host, Fresh. How you doing, buddy?
Perhaps this game is all about legacy right here. It's can you be one of those rare teams to win back to back? Hasn't happened in the past four opportunities. Go 15-0 is another accomplishment. Nick Saban and Alabama haven't done that. There's a lot at stake for the Dogs here, and then even on the other side, TCU chance to I heard people were like, oh, TCU's not a real Cinderella. They've had top 25 recruiting classes. They've had 10 win seasons, but considering where they started this year and where they were last year and making the run going through playing and come play for the Big 12 title game and getting into the playoff and then beating Michigan, you are Cinderella. I don't care what you say. You were a mediocre program last year. So you're making this run out of the middle of nowhere. Nobody had you even winning a Big 12 title, much less making it the championship game. You're a Cinderella run. Could the slipper still be dancing, or will it fall off on Monday night? That's the real story.
Well, going into this game right now, over under is set 62 and a half points. Georgia is a 12 and a half point favorite right now here. To me, Fresh, and again, you're the closet Bulldog fan. And the one thing I'm able to do here,
Closet Bulldog fan?
I shouldn't say closet Bulldog fan. Well, you're the resident Bulldog fan is what I meant to say. Resident Bulldog fan. Um, what I'm able to do is take myself and step away from this and look at this pretty objectively and see this. In my eyes, this game is really played against whether or not TCU is able to cover the spread. I know everyone else is going to drum this up and say like, "Hey, it's always a game. There's four quarters, 60 minutes, and everything." And like, who to doubt TCU? I've seen enough. I've seen enough from both teams. One of the crazy things is we've watched quite a bit of TCU this year. I've watched quite a bit of Georgia this year, and to me, I think that while both of them had highly emotional wins, I think TCU has gotten further than anyone else. I don't think this happens. I don't think I think that right now I think they were saying like there's a right now ESPN has a 27% chance of TCU winning this game right here. I I think that it's not even that. I think that the odds are maybe a 10%, maybe a 12% area right there. Again, it's I know it's easier for me to say as a not as a fan of either one of these teams. I'm able to look at that objectively, but I really have seen that, and I kind of just go off of what I see with my own two eyes here. The other thing I have to ask, though, for you, Fresh, are you ready for what this means when you win a second national title? Are you ready for what this means? Because I don't know if Georgia fans are ready for this. Are you ready to be the villains? Are you ready to be the heels? Because if you go back to back this year, the entire country, you've gone from being the darling. So last year, everyone was on your bandwagon. No one wanted to see Alabama win another national title. The rest of the country was behind Georgia. They loved Georgia, and they wanted to see you guys end the 41-year drought. That's that year. Now you're playing Cinderella. You beat Cinderella, which I think that is what I'm saying is going to highly possible. And now you've won back-to-back national titles. Now you have the hate. Now you have everybody else disliking you. Not just the Florida teams of the world, not just Alabama, not just Georgia Tech, not just Tennessee fans. You have everyone else disliking you. And that's actually a good thing. And I'll say this because no one dislikes bad football teams. In order for you to be disliked, in order for you to be hated, truly a heel and hated, you have to win. No one is kicked off, and we sit there and we talk about like who hates Northwestern, who hates like legitimately outside of maybe like Indiana or Illinois or whoever their rivalry game is. That's the only team fan base that dislikes Northwestern. All of us are going to be like, yeah, Northwestern's a good academic school, but you win back-to-back national titles, you win back-to-back this. All of a sudden, you're ready to. Everyone just hates you, and everyone just wants to see you lose. I don't know if the fans are ready for that.
I will speak for Bulldog Nation. We have no problem being hated and being the villain if we win back to back national championships. But make that accomplishment first. But I think we have no problem holding that banner and having that label going forward.
Man, people say that, man, but it'll be interesting to see because I will say this: the hardest thing with it is it comes with people trying to take down your accomplishments. And that's the hardest piece is that everyone, and you will sit there and rightfully so, you'll be able to defend yourself. You'll be able to say, hey, we won national title. We won in 21 with one of the greatest defenses that have ever taken the field in college football. You'll be able to say you won in 22 with one of the best offenses that we've seen come out of the SEC in a long time. Maybe even I don't know if I'll go straight country in the history piece like I will with that defense from last year, but this is a damn good offense. So people will always try to find chinks in the armor and discount what you've done and what your title is. That's where it gets the frustrating thing with fans because that comes from, while that will come from Florida fans, Tennessee fans, Alabama fans, Georgia Tech fans, now it comes from everybody. And that's what gets frustrating. Now you guys will sit there and go, we got 2 titles, don't matter. But it wears on you. You hear about it all the time.
Just
But
point at the scoreboard. That's all that matters.
hey, I hope so, man. I hope so. I've been living that life for a while, so.
I have a question for you, Seth.
What's that?
How many coaches have led a school to a national title in their first season with that program?
Larry Coker was the last to do it. I know that.
Well, so that's one.
I
But
think
how many total coaches?
I think it's like 2 or 3. It's maybe it's no more than 3.
Okay, that's 3.
Is it?
So
Okay.
Benny Osterbahn in Michigan in 1948, Dennis Eckerson in Miami in 89, and Larry Coker.
I
Sonny
knew
Dykes could be
Coker.
the 4th.
Hey, if Sonny Dykes does it, like it's going to be on the back. For me, it's going to be on the back of Max Duggan. Like Max Duggan is going to have to play the best game he's played all season for this game. Because while, you take a look at the Ohio State game, the Ohio State has a highly respectable offensive line. You're going to take a look at, they're going to produce 2 guys probably in the first, I'll say in the first 45 picks to come off of that offensive line. And Georgia still got to CJ Stroud 3 times. They still pressured him
4.
about 4
At 4
sacks.
sacks.
Okay, 4 sacks. And then they also had another 3 or 4 pressures as well, where he wound up running for his life and throwing the ball away. TCU doesn't have the offensive line. And that's where I think the difference is going to come into play. But if it's going to be Max Duggan getting the ball out quickly. It's going to be Miller playing. I hope Miller's healthy for this game. I haven't heard a report on whether or not he's playing this game or not yet. Hopefully I'll be able to find that by the end of the show. But it also, the really big X factor, and again, the really big X factor is if Max Duggan and Quentin Johnston can get it clicking early and often. I think that's the only place on this whole field. And I'll say this, I don't care who you are in college football right now. I think Quentin Johnston matched up against any defensive back in college football. I think the advantage goes to Quentin Johnston right now. That's just me.
Oh yeah, I mean his last 2 games, he has 10 receptions, 302 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Duggan has thrown for 3 touchdowns and has 32 completions and 476 yards in those 2 games. So that equates to 31% of the receptions, 63% of the passing yards, and 67% of the touchdown passes have gone to Johnston. He is the only true receiving threat. The real question comes down to what other Horned Frogs step up in the passing game to help Max Duggan. Because we know, DiMarcolo, Miller, and Duggan with their legs, all 3 of them are going to be a very, very strong ground effort for the Horned Frogs to really bring that dynamic. But who in that passing game is going to help step up with Johnston and really elevate and spread the field out against the Dogs' defense?
Yeah. They're saying that Miller right now, at the time we're recording this, he's questionable. Sonny Dykes recently came out and said that he's questionable. And what does questionable even mean? Like, it's 50-50 shot that he plays or not here. Fresh, all right, I'm going to give you my keys, and I'll let you go back to it. Georgia, we're going to say the same things we said about the Ohio State game. Georgia, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to run the football. You're going to need to rely on that 3-headed rushing attack again and kind of pound the football, loosen up the TCU defense. And then Stetson Bennett, all I need from you is mistake-free football. That's all I need from Stetson Bennett. As long as you don't make a mistake, long as you don't throw a couple interceptions here, fumble the football, take a couple of inopportune sacks, as long as he doesn't do that, and that's highly improbable that he does it. It's not in his MO. We rarely see that out of him. Maybe one, I think at most he had 2 turnovers in a game this season, if that. I don't know if he even had more than 2. Really, though, Georgia, it's got to be better on third down. 2 for 10 on third down won't cut it this time. You do not want to give Max Duggan and that offense multiple opportunities to kind of chip away at your defense. And TCU, it's all touchdowns. It's all touchdowns here. So it's 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56, 63 if you get up that high, 70, which is impossible. But what I'm saying is you can't settle for a single field goal in this game. You have to punch it in every single time you get that opportunity. No field goals. You do this, and you're going to have a shot. This is seriously a puncher's chance type of shot here, but that's the only way I can see it with the Horned Frogs. I would if I'm Georgia, if I'm Monken, I want to get Brock Bowers going in this game. I want to get him early and often. I'm going to run the ball first down, run it maybe on second down, and then play action on third, hit Bowers there. I'm a little nervous about missing Washington. A little bit nervous on that because what people don't realize is that everyone wants to talk about the matchup problem that Washington is out in play action, out going down the field. But what they don't give him enough credit for is how good of a run blocker he was. And I think that's one of the huge differences you saw, especially when you got past halftime of the Peach Bowl there, is that if you look at that third quarter, Georgia's offense starts to sputter, especially their run game. They're not getting the same type of push. And I think that's a direct result of Washington not being out there for them. Now, I don't think they're going to have him for this game. Is it? I believe it is he's messed up and he's out, right?
No, he's not out. He's on track to play.
Oh, is he on track to play? Okay.
Yeah, he's been making progress. I mean, you never know what's going to happen game day, but every progress is showing. Nothing's broken, nothing's torn, and he's moving in the right direction.
Okay, so this is the thing that stinks about college is that we don't get they don't give you full on injury report. And we kind of have to go off of just little things here. But I'm going with this here, Fresh. If he's able to go and be 100% and run block for them, then TCU's got no shot in this game. But I'll turn it over to you. I'll let you roll with it here, Fresh, and then we'll get to our picks.
Well, we mentioned the dynamic there about Johnson being the only true main passing receiving threat for TCU's offense. If they can find that second and third option, that's definitely going to help create some space for the running game and for Duggan in his running game. But also give Johnson that one-on-one opportunity because you saw what he did in Michigan, what he's done, throughout the entire season. When he gets the ball in space or in that one-on-one coverage, he is lethal and is just plowing ahead, setting himself up for a great NFL run and a great draft stock. So he has a bright future ahead of him. Duggan is a lot different from C.J. Stroud. Stroud coming in that ball game, he wasn't really known much as a runner. He would run to get the 3, 5, 10 yards if he had to get a first down, but not using it as a direct running option, call it in the huddle type of a quarterback. Duggan's the complete opposite. Duggan will use his legs at any point, and they will call run options directly for him. And so that's what Georgia also have to be worried about is now you have to keep your eyes at the quarterback. You can't turn your back to him and just expect he's going to be back there. You have got to keep an eye on him. He's going to take off and get 20, 15 if you're in a zone coverage or if you're man, depending on how you have the spacing on the field. You've got to look at him as a legit threat in any way possible, maybe even a spy on him, using that kind of thing. He's much more of a lay even from Bryce Young, too. He isn't going to run to get a first down. He's going to run to be a legit threat, and you're going to have to take that into account. Miller, you got to assume he's not going to be 100%. Like Washington, I don't think it'll be 100%, but they're both going to play it out. It's a national title game. You're going to strap it up and you're going to go. But DiMarco being there and the way he had success against Michigan, the two of them are going to be able to spell each other along with Duggan. And it's going to be a nice running attack that's help balance, and then open up the play action. Because once you get the running game going, you have that boot action for Duggan. His threat to run draws linebackers up, maybe draws safety or Bullard from the slot, and that opens up deep ends in the back. You've got to be able to execute and keep guys contained. And you can't let them break it because they've done it teams time and time again. TCU's battle tested. We've all seen it, whether they've been down early, they've been able to fight back or get in gritty games. The Baylor game is a gritty game. The Texas game is a gritty game. The offense really wasn't there, but they were able to fight through it. And the defense showed up and made plays. Other games, they were down, but the defense showed up in the second half and allowed them, propelling them to the second half victory. This team is not going to be scared to play in this football game, especially after beating Michigan. They are ready to go. They're going to be fired up. They know they have nothing to lose, just like Ohio State did, and they had nothing to lose versus Michigan. Nobody expects them to win. Look at this point spread. It's not. I think the point spread was what, maybe 8 or 9, maybe 7 versus Michigan. This is a 12.5, 13.5. It's there's no one's giving them a chance. No one's giving the Fighters a chance. They can play with whatever. They can play loose. They can have fun. And before you know it, you're stuck in a ball game, Horned Frogs are there. They have beaten teams time and time again when people have doubted them. So be aware of that. On the other side, that defense, it's a 3-3-5 scheme. Now, Michigan, two-time back-to-back winners of the best offensive line in the country and getting that trophy, and they made that offensive line look silly, just like Georgia's defense did the year before. You get that 3-3-5, it's very tough for an offensive line and a quarterback and running backs to figure out who's coming from where, what gaps do I have to protect. Am I going inside, outside? Who has the A? Who has the B? Are we actually getting the same reads from the center to the guard to the tackle? Is everyone seeing the same, who's approaching, who's backing off? Where's that pressure potentially coming from? That right there is much more deceiving than having a 4 down lineman and sort of assuming you're going to have guys covering gaps from that perspective. You've got to watch the linebackers. They're going to drop a safety in there. Where's that extra pressure coming? Where's that angle coming? Who's leaning? Look at their hand gestures. Who is heavy hand? Who's a little light on that stance? Maybe try to give you a little trick to see if they're backing out or they're actually coming. You've got to be fully locked in as a unit cohesively to understand where that protection needs to go. And that's what that 3-3-5 does to you. It also puts a lot of guys in space for those short slant routes. You're going to have to really use the running game, use the tight ends, use some shorter routes because they're going to put a big net back there with those 5 defensive backs and try to keep everything down low. You have to run the ball a lot to draw them up using that potential 3-5, that 3-3-5, where you have some potential gaps in that second level, allowing linemen to get to the second level. Be the aggressor because if that 3-3-5 and they start bringing pressure and you're in a passing situation late, you're going to be in trouble. So that's where that defense really was explosive versus Michigan, especially in that first half. They brought pressure. Michigan tried to throw the ball a little bit more than they expected to. They didn't run the ball as effectively at the beginning. They got themselves in nasty passing situations, and that led to 4 sacks by Dylan Horton, as well as they had 13 tackles for loss in the football game. They were aggressive. They forced 2 pick sixes. They attacked, and they got after right off the bat. And that's where, looking at Georgia, you've got to be ready to play immediately because TCU jumped on Michigan 21-6. They have a 0-0 after opening possessions for each team. Then the pick six for TCU, then a Michigan punt, then TCU touchdown, Michigan field goal, and then back-to-back turnovers, then back-to-back punts, then a TCU touchdown. Before you knew it, that game was out of control, and Michigan was kind of like, we're in life support mode. Yeah, they won the second half 39-30, but that initial first half caught them so off guard that they were not ready to play immediately. They were put in a position, they end up losing the football game in the end. You've got to be ready to go from the very beginning, and that's where this comes down to. There will be opportunities against the TCU defense because Michigan put up 39.5, but you can't fall behind a team and let them feel like they can win the football game and feel like they're in it. You got to take the life out. That's what teams haven't done all year. That's why Baylor kind of got in trouble. They didn't actually put TCU away. They let them hang around and they came back. Texas Tech, they didn't put TCU away. They allowed them to hang around. They came back and lost. You've got to be able to play from the very beginning, strangle them, and not give them any hope. If you do, that TCU team has so much energy and excitement and ability, they're going to be able to jump on you. Another thing, though, for TCU, lastly, that defense, they've got to tackle. Don't give up second chance, especially the running game. If McIntosh, Milton, and Edwards are breaking tackles, you're going to eventually start seeing those gains go 3, 4, 5, and 6. Because Georgia, they had some moments running the ball, but you said well identified in that third quarter, they could not run the football. The fourth quarter, though, the offense came clicking more for the passing side, but even the threat of that running game did help when it came down to the meat and potatoes late in that ball game. Georgia's defense has got to tighten up, especially in the secondary. Their ability in scramble drills and broken plays the past 2 games versus LSU and then versus Ohio State was pretty putrid. There was guys running wide open in the secondary in all those games. The tackling wasn't exactly as crisp. Maybe communication issues in the back end. Malik Starks, Chris Smith, you've got to be better. Javon Bullard off the slot been pretty solid, but you've got to continue to keep communicating with your teammates and being in the right spot. Keely Ringo actually had a pretty decent football game. If you start looking at where it was broken down plays versus straight up man coverage and straight up one-on-ones, the discrepancies in those really came into play. He struggled in the broken down plays, but he had success in those one-on-ones. So keeping your eyes on the quarterback because you know Duggan's going to run when those broken plays happen. Maintain your discipline, maintain your coverage. Force turnovers. I haven't seen them really force many turnovers outside of the blocked field goal and then that the gimme good luck interception, and the ball just bounced off the guy's helmet versus LSU. Outside of that, the aggressiveness of the defense to force turnovers needs to show its and rear its powerful head against TCU to stem the tide and shorten the field for the offense and really steal momentum at any time possible. If you keep that going, you're going to be in the ballgame. Because we haven't seen that lately. Will that rise up and become a factor in this football game? And then looking at that fourth quarter offense, that what Georgia displayed versus Ohio State, that fourth quarter offense has got to show up consistently. You cannot wait to get in this football game. You look at what they started off with in the first three drives of the first half versus Ohio State: missed field goal, touchdown, interception. Not exactly showing of a champion to start the ball game. The first three drives of the second half were punt, missed field goal. You can't come out of the locker room in both those games with all the momentum, all the build-up, and lay duds across the board. Yeah, your fourth quarter is fantastic. Yes, Stet has completed 88% of his passes in college football playoff games and has been pretty solid in the fourth quarter alone. You can't wait to start playing the fourth quarter. You've got to play all four quarters. So you got to start from the very beginning when you get those drives and score, because TCU's offense has shown that they can keep doing that all game long, and you can't give them any hope. Legacy, though, is the very end thing I said at the very beginning, but this is what it's all about. This is a legacy. It's on the line. Winning back-to-back. Hasn't happened since Alabama did in 11 and 12. Alabama did not go 15 and 0. LSU has, but nobody else has. You have a chance of really setting a standard of showing we're going to be in the record books for a long, long, long time. This is a moment, and you can't let it be too big, but you've got to realize that there is a lot on the line. You have a chance to really accomplish something that will last for over 100 years. People will always remember these two teams, that 21 and that 22 team, going 29 and 1 potentially. Just imagine that. That right there maybe is too monumental to even grasp. Might should be scared of it, but champions shouldn't be scared of success. That's where you have to look at it. So much weighing on this, but if you rise to the occasion, you play with your ability, you play with your coaching, you play for your teammates, you have a chance of being immortal and winning a football game. Embrace the legacy, embrace the challenge. Don't be scared of it. Don't run from it. The motto's been lock the doors, lock the cages. Nobody gets out. It's just us. That's what you got to do. You have to lock the doors in this football game and think about the legacy, think about each other, and go take care of business in every single play. It's been an amazing run so far, and you don't want it to end. And you can't play scared, because if you play scared, then it will end in a negative way. You've got to come out. You've got to attack TCU. And lastly, I just want to reiterate, I know we did it in our recap, but just the season that Kenny McIntosh has had. He's been kind of overlooked. You had DeAndre Swift go to the NFL. You have Nick Chubb. James Cook last year, a host of tons of running backs at Georgia, but Kenny McIntosh, you're thinking, he's not in their level. He's in his own level, and he's been absolutely phenomenal all season long. We talked about it. There's been 3 different SEC running backs in the millennium since year 2000 that have 500-plus yards rushing, 500-plus yards receiving, and 10-plus touchdowns in a single season. Percy Harvin did it twice. Dexter McCluster did it once, and then Kenny McIntosh. He has done more than anybody else that's been a running back at Georgia in the past 22, 23 years. That right there shows that the guy's versatile. He can do it all, and he's a playmaker. He might not get all the highlights on ESPN every single time, but he's the guy who's the focal point. I think he's actually going to be having a big game today, because you're going to have that 3-3-5 where there's going to be space in the perimeter from a screen pass, from a dump off, from a slant in, using some of those bubble screens, not just traditional handoff. That's going to give him opportunities to be successful. Other guys building off of that, Brock Bowers and Kendall Milton, are also going to have great games. These are set up for the 3 of them to really be explosive. The passing game, it's going to be hit or miss on which receiver is going to have the big one, because they've been playing so many guys in rotation with injuries involved. But those 3 players are going to have big ones due to the defense giving them potentially some space. But this ends on Stetson Bennett. Can you shake off any more doubters that might still be out there? I don't know why there will be any, other than Eric Ainge, the news guy and former Tennessee quarterback. But everybody, Stetson Bennett, go out there, enjoy it, embrace it. Keep playing, play smart, play happy, and go win yourself your second natty, and get yourself a statue. Because if you win this championship, Kirby Smart and yourself are going to have statues in Athens almost immediately. But take care of business, play smart, embrace the moment. Because when you embrace the moment and you trust each other, you're going to be victorious in the end.
Yeah, embrace it, because I think this is probably going to be one of the last moments we see of Stetson Bennett. I don't, while he's a great college quarterback, he doesn't show me that he is probably going to play in the pros. He might. I mean, who knows? Colt McCoy's made a 15-year career being a clipboard holder and occasionally spots starting there. But Fresh, I think you're right. And it's going to come down to some of these matchups. But again, at the end of the day, I'm always going to bet on the team that has more talent. And top to bottom, Georgia has more talent. Georgia's time and time again put together the right plays at the right time, and where usually the second go around is all about me and more and my thing instead of the team. Georgia hasn't succumbed to that this year, and that's been pretty impressive. That's a good thing, and that means that they're being well coached and they've had things taken care of. Max Duggan, he's an underdog, man, and I love him. And for me, and I'm going to say this here fresh. I'm picking Georgia to win this game. I'm going to pick Georgia to win this handedly. In the history of everything, in the history of college football, if we go 10, 15 years down the road, it would be more of a story if TCU wins this game than if Georgia wins back-to-back national titles. Because it's like the 85 Villanova team, the 8 seed that makes this improbable run to the tournament. We talk about Cinderellas in March Madness. We talk about VCU. We talk about the team that upset. I can't think of them right now who upsetted Virginia and become the first 16 team to ever win a one game. We talk about Loyola Chicago and the 99-year-old nun who goes to every single game. Not because they're the favorite, not because they were expected to win. It's because everyone expected them not to win. And it was every single time one of those teams wound up doing it, it takes a Herculean effort. It takes an incredible effort by someone special. I can still remember this fresh when we were way back in college. I got to do an interview with Raleigh Massimino, and I talked to him about the Villanova game against Georgetown. And Georgetown had Patrick Ewing. They had all those great centers come through. And I know Ewing wasn't on that team, but Georgetown was the dynamic it program at that time. And he says, like, we played lights out in that game. We played lights out. It was an incredible game we played. And we did everything right. Every single aspect of the game went their way. For TCU to win this game, every single aspect's got to go their way. Every single battle, every single inch, everything has to go their way. I don't see that happening. I'm going to say this. I'm going to take Georgia, and I'm going to take Georgia covering the spread in this game. I think I'm going to be on Monday night. I think at about the late in the third quarter, maybe early fourth quarter, I'm going to be able to go, okay, I'm going to sleep. Because I think the game, I really think it's going to be that well in hand there. I will say this. If it's a huge if TCU wins this game, one, I will have to probably come to your place just to check on you to see that you're okay. But also I think it will be the story that we will forever tell about the Cinderella. Someone's got to lose to Cinderella. And it sucks that if it sucks for you if it was Georgia, and it does. But if it does happen, it's going to be a hell of a story. It will be a hell of a story. But I got Georgia winning big. I think the name of the game is going to be those 3 running backs. I think McIntosh is going to have I've been a huge fan of McIntosh most of this year. I really, really like what he's done. So I'm going to go with him. Some of the other guys, yeah, they can get going, but he's the one I'm really thinking that's going to have a huge game in this one here as well. But again, we'll see. They got to play the game, but I got Georgia and the points.
Got to play the game, blocking and tackling, the whole thing, line of scrimmage, who wants to dominate. I am interested to see how Glenn Schulman, Kirby, and Will Muschamp deal with Max Duggan and his legs. You didn't really have to game plan for a mobile quarterback with Stroud or anyone else, Bryce Young, Hendon Hooker even. Do they run Smile Monday? Do they bring Javon Bowler? Do they put Dumas Johnson back there? Who's going to be the spy that's going to follow him around and keep him sort of and contain him the best you possibly can? You can't just let him run freely back there. You've got to have some sort of plan, but how they're going to operate that, because that's going to be the true teller. If they can contain him and keep him from being lethal on the edges. That limit, but puts him in a spot where he has to become just a thrower on his own, and the legs away might make it a little more of a challenge. But you never know. He's still a great quarterback. He's obviously a Heisman candidate for a reason. But I want to see which of those three players or which of the combination of players they use to really hone in on him and try to take him away.
Yeah. So you got Georgia, but do you have Georgia covering the points?
Not taking Georgia to cover. I think TCU is going to play like a very, very eventful and spirited football game. The reason why I don't is because last week there was just so much emotion in that Georgia Ohio State game. How can they come down off that high, regroup, get healthy, and then play at a high level again? I think they win. I'm not going to say they cover. I think they win by 9.
You think they only win by 9? Wow. All right, man. Well, we'll find out along the way here. I think that you're a little bit off on that, but that's just me. And here's the other thing, crazier, Fresh. You realize that Stetson Bennett would have the single season passing record for Georgia if I think he needs like
170, like 177, 175 yards. Yeah, he would be the for having Matthew Stafford there and him being a great NFL career and Aaron Murray doing so well and Eric Zier and all those guys. Stetson Bennett would not just be probably the most winningest quarterback there. He would also have that record, which is pretty impressive.
He needs 70 yards. 70 yards. That's all he needs. And so, according to your guys' website here, but man, it's going to make Fresh. You're a good enough Georgia fan where you're not annoying and belligerent or annoying all the time here on your team here, but it is going to make some of our other Georgia fans quite difficult to speak with, especially the one that lives down South Florida. He was wondering if we were going to mention his name in this whole podcast, but
Well, he will be at the game. He's already showed me he has his tickets. Another one of our good buddies is heading out to LA as well. So, hey, I did my part last week. It's on you guys this week to bring it home.
yeah, well, we'll see how Rassner likes it or not, but that'll be a time and conversation for another thing. It's that we're at the end here, Fresh, and it's kind of weird that we're at the end, but all good things have to come to an end, and it's gone quickly and way too fast at times here. But this will be a fun one. It definitely will be that. So here's to a great national title game, and we'll see what happens.
See what happens when the dust settles. But yeah, you're right. College football season has flown by. For all the waiting we've done from April, May, June, July, and August, the season blew by 10 times faster than that long wait.
Yeah. So we'll have some interesting stuff for you guys. Make sure you guys tune in to the Irrational Confidence podcast. We're not done, even though the season's going to be ending. We still have a few things coming up. We do have a few announcements that we'll be making over the next about 2 or 3 months here. So definitely want to tune in. Make sure that you're going to spinnablesports.com. Like, subscribe wherever you get this stuff from, because you guys know, we're going to always bring you the best that we can do, even though sometimes, especially those of you who comment this on the YouTube. Yeah. But the Irrational Confidence podcast is part of spinnablesports.com. So make sure you go in there, checking out everything. We have our top bowl games out there. We have a recap of 2022, the sports year in review. Fresh, you're a little biased on that one, I will say, on this one. The number one item overall is the Georgia winning the national title, but I understand there as well. If you would have asked me in 2016, I would have said the Cavs win the title. So there you go. That special shout out to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. So special thank you to him. He's been great along the season. You guys don't know how much work he does behind the scenes. So a huge shout out to him. Without him, none of this is possible. Like I said, subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, Good Pods, any of those. Leave us the 5-star review, because you guys know we're those 5-star prospects. If you're watching this on the YouTube, subscribe to the Spinnable Sports YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell. Get notified every single time we drop a new episode. We're going to keep coming at you here. Might not be 2 a week, but we'll definitely be dropping new episodes coming into, especially if we're hitting the NFL playoffs, getting into the draft, and definitely running the second annual hostile takeover for Spinnable Sports. So follow us along on Twitter, interact with us, and that's all I got. It's one of the last ones of the season. There you go. Fresh, I'll turn it over to you to close us out here.
Haps, you hit it all, and I definitely admitted I was going to be biased in my article, but I wrote how I felt. You said go by your heart, right?
Yeah.
But with that, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope you guys keep coming in, the rest of us, and enjoying. Can't wait for basketball season. But before we get there, go Dogs, and bye, y'all.